Hey guys, my name is Danny and I'm your life and relationship coach. And I wanted to talk about what effective communication looks like in a relationship. This is a topic that I get all the time in my one-on-one coaching sessions. It is probably, I'll be honest with you, probably 8 out of the 10 people that come to see me, there is some sort of issue in regards to communication. Either they don't necessarily know how to communicate with their partner, or they feel like their partner doesn't know how to communicate with them. There's a lot of unresolved issues. They don't feel understood, heard. There's so many different facets of communication, and it can be difficult to navigate if you don't understand the basics or the fundamentals of communicating. So let's get into some of just the basics of communicating and what you would need in regards to be able to have an efficient and productive conversation with your partner. So the first one is listening to understand. And I know this concept seems simple, but it's actually very difficult for a lot of people, because if you are in a relationship and if you've been in a long-term relationship, you know that sometimes we listen just to be right. We want to hear what our partner is saying so that we can prove them wrong. Because if we're right, then they can't say anything anymore. And, conversation is moot. It's done. I proved my point. I can walk away. And I ask my clients all the time, do you want to be right or do you want to be understood? Because it's a two-way street. So if you are constantly trying to prove your partner wrong, you are going to classically condition them to do the same exact thing. And then we get into what's called a pattern of blame. And once you are in that pattern of blame, then you are in a stalemate. And it's very difficult to get out of that. So let's try to navigate this conversation, the style of communication, before it even gets to that place. So again, like I said, listening to understand. So what does that mean? In order to do that, you have to exercise empathy, which means you have to be able to put yourself in your partner's shoes. So when they are saying things to you, when they are expressing to you how they are feeling, listen to them. Listen to what they are saying. It's not just about what they are saying, the message that they are saying, but it's the underlying emotion that is driving that conversation, that phrase, that sentence, right? And that's really where you start to listen and understand where they are coming from. So if they are saying to you, I'm really frustrated because I feel like the dishes are never clean, and they're never put in the dishwasher, and that's just a reactionary emotion. They're expressing their frustration through, their tone of voice, their body language, they're yelling, whatever the case may be. But underneath that, what's underlying that is actually them saying, I feel a lack of support. I don't feel supported. So if you're able to start to practice really listening to what's going on underneath and what the core emotion is, it will help you to really understand your partner on a different level, which will help to create a safe space. They will feel the ability to be more vulnerable. And in that vulnerability, you're able to actually have efficient and productive conversations. The second thing is take accountability. If you're wrong, you're wrong. If you said something that was not nice, own it. One of the biggest issues that people have that I have found is taking accountability. And it's not always their fault, right? So there's something that happens in a relationship. And it's, again, I've mentioned this before many, many times before, and it's the 3 magic words. That's not fair. When somebody says, well, that's not fair, I immediately know it's because they are in a cycle of blame. And if you are in a cycle of blame, it is because there are unresolved issues, resentments, angers, and frustrations that have not been dealt with. So it's difficult for somebody to take accountability for something if they feel like their partner hasn't fessed up to their stuff. If their partner doesn't take accountability for their actions, why should I? Why should I have to take accountability when they're not taking accountability for their actions? But again, I ask my clients, do you want to win or do you want to be able to move forward as a team? Oftentimes people lose sight of this. Instead of attacking the problem together, they attack each other. Keep that in mind. Efficient and productive communication is not about attacking each other. It is about tackling the issue together. So what is more important? Needing to be right or just being able to step back and say, you know what? I was wrong. I acknowledge it. Let's move forward. The third one is expressing your needs in a respectful manner. So expressing your needs is incredibly important. And that is one of the primary reasons for why we communicate. You have to be able to let your partner know what it is that you feel you need out of the relationship, right? But your partner also has to feel comfortable in telling you what their needs are. If you are telling your partner what your needs are, but you're doing it in a disrespectful way, if you're yelling at them, if you're pointing your finger at them, if you're telling them, if you don't do this, then I'm going to do that. If you're serving them with ultimatums and all these types of things, that is not the best way to go about expressing your needs to your partner or telling them what your expectations are. This is just going to have a negative effect, and you're not going to get the result that you want. So make sure you are expressing your needs to your partner in an emotionally neutral way, and make sure they are realistic expectations. Oftentimes, people have these unrealistic expectations that they put onto their partner. They may not even be realizing it. It's a subconscious thing that people do sometimes. So what I usually recommend to my clients is to sit down and create a list of their needs. And once you've created a list of needs, then rank or categorize them by priority. And once you've ranked and categorized them by priority, then rank and categorize them by whether they are realistic or unrealistic. And once you have done that, then you can kind of start to break down what the important topics are that you want to share with your partner. And then you guys can come together and compromise on those things. But you also have to be willing to be open and listen to what your partner has to say, because they may not necessarily agree with you, but that's okay. That's the beauty of communication, is that you're able to discuss things and work through them. The fourth one is empathy. Having empathy for your partner. And I mentioned this in one of the earlier stages, one of the earlier steps. It is so important to be able to understand your partner on an emotional level, to put yourself in their shoes. If they are going through a rough time, empathize with them. Let them know that you understand them, that you get that they are going through a rough time and you're here to support them. And even if you don't understand what they are going through, that's okay. You don't have to every single time, but you can still show your support. You can still say, you know what? I may not necessarily know what you're feeling emotionally. I'm here to listen if you'd like to express it with me or just share it with me. But regardless of that fact, just tell me what it is that you need. Practicing empathy and applying it in your relationship is so important, and it's a crucial aspect of being able to have effective communication with your partner. The final one, and probably one of the most important ones in regards to managing arguments, is it a fair fight or an unfair fight? And a lot of people ask, what is a fair and an unfair fight? So let me break it down for you guys. An unfair fight, and I'm sure many of us have been here before, and many of you have probably experienced this, so I'll just give you an example. Your wife or your husband comes home. They've had a long day at work. They are exhausted. They just want to eat and they want to sit down and relax. And that is when we decide to talk about that argument that we had a week ago. They do not have the emotional capacity to deal with that conversation. They do not have the emotional reserves to be able to deal or handle that conversation in that moment. So what ends up happening, they may try to placate you and actually sit down and have the conversation, but they're not fully going to be present for that conversation. So you will feel misunderstood, and it will just perpetuate this argument over and over and over again, or vice versa, right? You're the person who's coming home and your partner's wanting to have that conversation. It's not a fair fight. Or ultimatums are being thrown around. If you don't do this, then I'm going to leave you. If you don't do this, then I'm going to do this. It's giving that person very little options other than two options, which actually benefits the person who is throwing the ultimatums around. That is not fair. A fair fight is when you schedule an argument. Now, I completely understand. Arguments are inevitable in a relationship, and you can't control them all the time. But the big topics, the big ones that have been issues for extended periods of time should be planned out. So oftentimes what I say to my clients is, and it's going to feel a little unnatural at first, right? Scheduling a conversation. But believe me when I tell you, having that kind of level of semi-controlled environment will help to create more of an efficient and productive conversation. So it can go along the lines of saying, hey, look, there's something that's really been bothering me. I know that I'm not going to be able to shake it until I sit down and have a conversation with you. Are you okay talking about it tonight when we put the kids to sleep? Or maybe tomorrow when you get back from work, I'll give you a couple hours to unwind and relax, and then maybe we can have the conversation. That is a fair fight. You're giving your partner the opportunity to emotionally prepare for that conversation, and you two are also allowing yourself time to prepare for that conversation, because you know that sometimes when we go directly into an argument, emotions are heightened and illogical or irrational things can be said, and that cause more damage than good. So giving yourself time to prepare is a great way to be able to carry on a productive and efficient conversation. So just to recap what the 5 things or primary topics that I think are necessary in order to have effective communication in a relationship. The first one is listening to understand. The second one is taking accountability. The third one is expressing your needs respectfully. The fourth one is empathizing with your partner. And the fifth one is the difference between a fair fight and an unfair fight. If you related to this video, please make sure you hit the like and subscribe button down below. I love having open dialogue with people. So if this is something that you related to, or you feel like I may have missed a couple of things, please make sure you leave your comments down below. I love to read the comments. If you just want some more details or just want to dive in a little bit deeper, you can visit us at happilycommitted.com, where we have a multitude of different articles and blogs and videos related to this subject and many other subjects as well. As I had mentioned in the video, the product on communication, which will help you to understand the fundamentals of communication and how to navigate an argument, as well as how to manage conflict resolution. You can find that product in the products section of the Happily Committed website. If you just want to book a one-on-one coaching session with myself or one of the other amazing coaches that we have on the team, you can also do that through the website. Again, my name is Danny. I'm your life and relationship coach. I hope you guys are staying happy and healthy. See you guys soon.